Miami Dolphins fans, buckle up. Big updates are rolling in from training camp, and the buzz around this team feels different. The Dolphins aren't just preparing for week one, they're setting the tone for the entire season. And today, I'm breaking down all the latest developments that every Dolphins fan needs to know. First off, let's talk about the energy inside camp. Coaches are saying the competition level is sky high. Veterans are locked in, rookies are fighting for their spot. And the overall vibe is that Miami isn't just aiming to compete, they're aiming to dominate. This shift in attitude is exactly what fans have been waiting for. Because when the Dolphins are confident, they're dangerous. But that's not all. The injury updates are finally giving fans some relief. Key players are recovering faster than expected, and several starters are looking stronger day by day. This means Miami could hit week one almost at full strength, something that hasn't always been the case in past years. And trust me, that could be the difference between a good start and a great one. Before I get into the latest news, make sure you subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, and don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss a Dolphins update. This is your home for everything Miami Dolphins, and we've got plenty more coming your way. Now, let's move on to the big headline. The real excitement comes from the coaching staff's new strategy. Reports say Miami is installing a few wrinkles in both the offense and defense, designed to maximize speed and unpredictability. And if you know this team, you know speed is their greatest weapon. Imagine the Dolphins playmakers getting even more creative freedom on the field. That's going to be a nightmare for opposing defenses. Lastly, let's not overlook the rookies making noise. Multiple young players are turning heads with their intensity, and coaches are already hinting that some of them could see meaningful snaps early. That's huge for depth, and it proves Miami's front office drafted with purpose. So, Dolphins fans, here's the bottom line. The team looks locked in, healthier than expected, and hungrier than ever. If this energy carries over into week one, Miami could be setting themselves up for one of the most exciting starts to a season in recent memory. The Miami Dolphins are heading to Detroit this Saturday to take on the Lions in their second preseason matchup. And Dolphins fans, this game is going to tell us a lot. Preseason might not count in the standings, but it's where players build momentum, fight for roster spots, and prove whether they belong in the spotlight. In today's breakdown, I'm zeroing in on the players I'll be watching most closely. Last week, we did a top 10 list for the first preseason game, and it's only right to do the same here. Why? Because now it's about consistency. Can the young guys keep their stock rising? Or are we going to see some names take a step backward? And let's be real, all eyes are once again on the quarterback room. Last week's performance from Skylar Thompson, to put it bluntly, was a disaster. 5 completions on 18 attempts, 2 turnover-worthy plays, and a quarterback rating of 48. If that wasn't bad enough, nearly half of his passing yards came on the final desperation hook and ladder. That's not the kind of football Dolphins fans want to see, and certainly not what this team needs in a backup QB battle. Because here's the thing, one bad outing doesn't define a player, but it sure puts the spotlight on them the following week. Thompson has a golden opportunity against the Lions to bounce back and remind coaches why he's worth keeping around. If he struggles again, the conversation about Miami's quarterback depth is going to get even louder. There's been plenty of hype around Skylar Thompson in training camp, but last week's performance completely flipped the narrative. He didn't look poised. His confidence was shaken, and his body language screamed hesitation. The mechanics weren't sharp. His footwork was sloppy, and he simply looked out of rhythm. That's exactly why he stays at the top of my list of players to watch. The question now is simple. Do we see a better version of Thompson this week, or does the pressure continue to expose him? Sliding in at number 2 is Jaylen Wright, and his situation is just as intriguing. With Alexander Mattison out for the year due to neck surgery, Wright has now cemented himself as the Dolphins' number 2 running back. Miami has added extra depth in recent days with signings like Aaron Champlain and Mike Boone. But the reality is clear. Wright is in a prime position to earn real trust from this coaching staff. And yet, his first showing left a lot to be desired. Against Chicago, Wright had multiple opportunities at the goal line but couldn't punch it in. 4 straight runs stuffed inside the 5-yard line. That's not just bad luck. That's a lack of patience, vision, and timing. Running backs in this league need to wait for lanes to develop, then explode when they see daylight. For Wright, this week is about proving he can make those adjustments. The Dolphins don't need just another body in the backfield. They need a reliable second option behind Devon Kane. And right now, Wright has every chance to seize that role. Jaylen Wright didn't deliver what fans were hoping for against Chicago. The explosiveness, the patience, the spark that he's shown in flashes, none of it really showed up last week. But here's the thing. We've seen Wright perform before. He looked sharp in last year's preseason, and even had a solid outing against the Patriots in the regular season. That's why I'm not writing him off yet. This Saturday, he has another chance to remind everyone why the Dolphins believe in his potential. A strong performance could change the entire tone around him. Now let's shift to number 3 on the list. Cam Smith, the third-year corner from South Carolina, once a high second-round pick, finds himself in a critical spot. There's no sugarcoating it. Smith has to show out this week. His practices haven't been strong, and with Miami's cornerback depth looking competitive, his roster spot is far from secure. If he doesn't step up against the Lions, his time in Miami could very well be over. But the opportunity is there. Smith is expected to get plenty of snaps on Saturday, and this is the kind of game that could swing his future. Play well, and he fights his way back into the conversation. Struggle again, and the decision becomes obvious for the front office. Every snap matters for Cam Smith right now, and I'll be watching closely. At number 4, we circle back to Zach Wilson. Last week against the Bears, his performance was shaky, to put it mildly. Yes, there were flashes. A laser throw to Nick Westbrook across the middle. Another perfectly placed ball in the end zone that should have been caught but wasn't. But overall, Wilson didn't look steady. For a player fighting to prove he belongs in Miami's long-term plans, inconsistent simply isn't good enough. Looking back at Zach Wilson's performance, the tape doesn't lie, and it wasn't pretty. Sure, he had a couple of nice throws, including one that should have been a touchdown if not for a difficult one-handed attempt. But the negatives outweighed the positives. He missed a wide-open streak down the sideline, nearly threw a pick six that was dropped, held the ball too long, and took unnecessary sacks. Yes, he led a couple of touchdown drives, but overall it was a shaky outing that raises more questions than answers. And that's why both quarterbacks remain under the microscope. Thompson and Wilson are fighting not just for roster spots, but for trust. And right now, neither has shown enough consistency. Saturday against the Lions could be a turning point. Either they steady the ship, or they push Miami to start rethinking its depth chart. Now at number 5, we turn to Ollie Gardner, and this one is exciting. Ironically, he landed 5th on my list last week too, but once again, he's right back in the spotlight. Why? Because Gardner is quietly climbing the ladder in Miami's backfield rotation. Against Chicago, he was arguably the Dolphins' second-best running back, right behind Devon Kane. And when you stack his performance against Alexander Mattison and Jaylen Wright, Gardner came out looking stronger and more reliable. This week could be his chance to make a real statement. If Gardner follows up with another impressive performance against Detroit, he might just sneak his way into that RB2 conversation. The Dolphins' running back depth is wide open right now, and with Kane looking like a star, the battle for who lines up right behind him could get very interesting very quickly. Gordon's vision, his burst, and his consistency are all things I'll be watching closely in this matchup. At number 6, let's talk about Taj Washington, a player who wasn't even on my list last week, but absolutely earned his way into the spotlight after that first preseason game. Washington showed flashes of being a true NFL receiver, not just a camp body. On the opening drive, he hauled in a tough 9-yard catch over the middle from Tua, setting the tone right away. Then, later in the first half, he delivered a highlight play, a beautiful 34-yard corner route grab. all while Zach Wilson was under pressure. Those are the kinds of plays that separate players fighting for a spot from players who secure one. And here's what stood out most. Washington didn't even play much in the second half. Why? Because he didn't need to. The coaches had already seen enough. That alone tells you how much trust he's starting to build within the staff. Now, I had Theo East Jr. penciled in as Miami's sixth receiver heading into camp, especially after his strong work during mandatory minicamp. But Taj Washington is making things very interesting. If he puts together another strong performance in week 2 of the preseason, whether it's catching passes from Tua, Wilson, or whoever's under center, he could very well lock down a roster spot. This is a battle I'll be watching closely. At number 7, we turn to the rookie safety. Dante Trader Jr., the 5th-round pick out of Maryland, finally made his return to practice this week, and that alone is exciting. The Dolphins' secondary is loaded with talent, but Trader brings versatility and a physical edge that Miami values. For him, this preseason isn't just about making splash plays. It's about showing he can handle the playbook, contribute on special teams, and prove he belongs in this defensive rotation. His debut against Detroit will give us our first real look at how he translates from college to the pros. Dante Trader Jr. is one of the rookies I'm most eager to see this weekend. He flashed early in camp before suffering a lower body injury that sidelined him for weeks. Now he's finally back, and the timing couldn't be better. With Ashton Davis dealing with injuries, there's a real opening for Trader to step up as Miami's potential fourth safety. The Dolphins' depth chart already features Minkah Fitzpatrick, Elijah Campbell, and Melvin Ingram ahead of him. But the competition for that next spot is wide open. Patrick Morris will be in the mix too. But this game is Trader's first chance to show what he can do under live NFL action. For a 5th-round pick, the margin of error is thin. But if he can make an impact on defense and contribute on special teams, his case for a roster spot becomes much stronger. This debut will tell us a lot about where he stands. Moving on to number 8, let's talk about Jonah Savia. His preseason debut against the Bears was a roller coaster, and that's exactly what you'd expect from a rookie offensive lineman. On the positive side, he showed flashes of why Miami is high on him, delivering key downfield blocks on an end around, using his athleticism in space, and sealing lanes on Jaylen Wright's rushing touchdown. He even had a few strong pass protection reps that gave the quarterback clean pockets. But the struggles were there too. At times, he got beat too easily, showing that his technique and awareness are still developing. And that's okay. This is what the preseason is for. What Jonah needs more than anything is reps. The nerves of his first game are out of the way, and now it's about consistency. That's why I think he should be on the field for at least a half against Detroit, and probably a full quarter in the preseason finale against Jacksonville. Every snap is a learning opportunity, and the more work he gets now, the better he'll be when the games start counting. Jonah Savia isn't the only rookie I'm keeping an eye on. At number 9, we've got Jordan Phillips, the defensive lineman out of Maryland. Phillips was an absolute force in the first preseason game, and honestly, he was one of the most fun players to watch on tape. There was one particular moment that stood out. Miami was backed up against its own 1-yard line with the Bears threatening to score. Phillips was double-teamed by both the guard and the center, yet he planted his feet, drove them backward, shed the block, and swallowed up the running back right at the line of scrimmage. That's not just strength, that's leverage, technique, and sheer determination. Plays like that are why I'm so excited about him. Phillips already looks like Miami's 4th defensive tackle, and he isn't on this list because he has something to prove. He's here because I can't wait to see more of him in action. And finally, at number 10, we close it out with Grayson Murphy, the second-year undrafted free agent out of UCLA. Murphy made his presence felt last week with 3 quarterback pressures, a sack, and an impressive 16.7% pass rush win rate. Yes, it came against second, third string competition, but the tape doesn't lie. His quick first step and relentless motor were on full display. For a player fighting to earn a permanent role, that kind of production matters. If Murphy can continue disrupting the pocket against Detroit, his case for a roster spot strengthens dramatically. And here's the exciting part. If he were to maintain that same win rate over the course of a regular NFL season, we'd be talking about one of the league's top 15 pass rushers. That's the kind of upside you don't ignore. And it's why Murphy closes out my list of Dolphins to watch this week.